Hi there, I'm Deidre, and you are tuning in to another episode of His Daughter, Her Dad. And this is episode 3, the big 3, and one of my favorite topics we're talking about, my dad's experience as a student. Dad.
Yes.
I love school. It was one of my favorite places to be. It was my place of refuge. I remember strategically preparing for the first day of school every single year. In fact, I was not preparing for the first day of school. I was preparing for the first week of school. April was my favorite time of the year because that meant I was going to be choosing my classes for the next year. So I don't know how you like school, but I like school. What kind of student were you?
I was just type who would answer present and then quiet the whole time the class went on.
We are so different.
Yeah, totally different. Okay? Totally different.
Why? Why weren't you into school?
Well, when I do recall, because it was hard for me to start the first grade. Why? Because mom was always there. And when I knew I had to go to school, we always, when the siblings was time for them to go to school, they get everything ready and then they're ready to go to school. They was ready to go because they want to get out of the house. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to leave the house. Mm-hmm. I want to stay with mama. Okay? Mm-hmm. So when they say first grade, okay, I had to do it. It wasn't about liking it. I went and reported. I went through the motion. But I was the type was, again, when I answered present, that was it. When I was called on, that's the only time I was talking.
So even through like middle school and high school, you didn't take any of the stereotypical roles. You weren't the jock or the class clown or the teacher's pet. You didn't identify with any of those roles at all?
Well, a lot of times when I would go in any classroom, I was always the one who wouldn't cut up, okay? I would sit in the background, and when it was time for the teachers needed, especially the female teachers that I had, I was always helping them. If there was some things going on in the classroom that caused disruption, I was the one who was always try to bring calmness to it.
Well, doesn't he sound like you as a student?
So at the end of the day, during that time we had erase board, we had the erasers, cleaning erasers. Yeah, I did that. Cleaned the blackboard.
Dusting, because this was chalk. Yeah, y'all didn't have dry erase board.
We had chalk. Okay,
we got to go back to the time period.
Okay, so I was always.
It was probably toxic.
But we didn't know at the time. I mean, but it was more or less, I was there to be a part of the class because I had to be in class. But if they need help, I'd help. Mm-hmm. As far as I didn't want to be the one who was talking out or raise his hand because I was always afraid of saying something that were two things: be the wrong answer to the teacher. Second, draw attention to some people, and then they're going to tease me about what I said and how I said it. Mm. Okay? So I didn't want to deal with confrontation. Mm-hmm. It's that I wasn't living in fear. I knew how one should be treated, and I didn't want to treat nobody else that way, but yet I would take it if I had to. Mm. So I took a lot of unnecessary behavior because these are kids came from all kinds of walks of life.
It seems to me that someone with that experience would stop at high school once they graduated and work and move on, especially in the 70s during this time period, right? What possessed you to go on to college at Jackson State, an historically black college and university?
Let me clarify something. As you find yourself a part of something, I built relationship with people, and I didn't know it at the time what I was doing. It turned into, there were some good things about going to school that I enjoy. Okay. Don't think I just went to school, was miserable. I began to enjoy it because I participated in various things. I even took a home economic class that they teach you how to sew.
Oh, you know how to sew?
Oh, I sew.
What do you sew?
Clothes. I made my outfit.
Not the one you're wearing.
No, I'm back in the day.
Oh.
Okay. I made me a jacket. I made pants. I actually, because I learned, my mom taught me how to sew on the sewing machine. I know how to sew.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I learned different things, and I got into woodworking with my hands. I didn't know that. I had the talent of working with my hands, but I knew later I got it from my dad because that's all he did. He fixed problems. We didn't have the money like cars or repairs on the house. He would do that. And I would watch it and I would help him. I learned those skills from him. So my whole thing was I went to school and I was enjoying school because of the people. There was some good and bad. Don't think I wanted to stay home then because that's when I first started when I was younger. But when I started getting older, I fit in. And I fit in with certain people. And I began that you mentioned to me about mentors. School, there was always a teacher here or there that would encourage me because they saw something I couldn't see in myself. And that's the thing that we have to understand when we are helping people. You got to see something in them that they can't see themselves, and you bring encouragement to bring that out. So they brought that out of me. When I got into, it was a history teacher. He would encourage me because he saw something in me. And as a shop teacher, he was always encouraging me because we did a lot of different things. I remember taking shop and I made my own chessboard from scratch. I built a chessboard with a covenant out of wood, different type woods. But he showed me how to do it, and I was good at it. And I still have that chessboard here today.
Where?
It's there at the house.
I need to see this.
I built this chessboard, but he always saw something in me. And when people see things in me, I didn't get the big head. I was always curious about what's next.
Yeah.
So they will always encourage me on the what's next. And he encouraged me with the what's next when I actually got into 12th grade. They had to select, it was either 3 or 4 people that were going to receive a scholarship from the university, and one of the university was Jackson State. 2 of the teachers got together and they say David needs to get that scholarship, and I didn't know. So I received
Gotta love teachers.
Yeah, I received an industrial arts scholarship to Jackson State University. At that point, going into like you saying, I should have dropped out of school. I just want to finish school. My oldest brother, my oldest sister didn't finish school. My oldest brother, I was told he dropped out about 9th grade. Carl dropped out in 9th grade. I didn't know that. Then my sister, she dropped out. She didn't finish. But what happened, it wasn't about competing. It was about being aware of what's next. I didn't see, my other sisters, them went on to a college and other trade school, but I didn't see myself doing that because it wasn't something in my neighborhood or in my home. But when I got the scholarship, that was not a choice.
But
I had to go.
clarification, though, I mean, in your neighborhood, you basically lived next door to Jackson State University.
Yes.
So the proximity to you in college was not foreign. They were right around the corner.
Exactly.
You could hear the sonic boom practicing still to this day.
Exactly.
From that address. But even yet, proximity wasn't enough to inspire you.
No.
It took an individual.
It took an individual because you hear it, and that was only, to me, entertainment for certain people, and did not know how to go about doing it because it wasn't something that I was used to. And even going to a university, no one in my family went to a university at that time. So I wasn't connecting with what I was hearing and seeing. Kids going to school and everything going over there. But this man connected me to that. So when I graduated, I went up and received that scholarship awards. And I received 2 awards, most likely to succeed awards, and that's in the scholarship award. And that took me to the next level. I didn't know who I was based on the inside. It was something in me, but someone else knew who I was. But on the outside, I didn't know.
So let's talk about the conditions of your environment during this time related to school and college. This was directly after MLK and Kennedy passing. This was Vietnam War. You had to endure busing and integration, and then they reversed the integration and busing. What outside of you just being a student, did you feel the pressures of the new Jim Crow? Like, did you feel all these things happening around you? Did they impact your decision making related to education? Because education amongst blacks was not a guarantee, even though there was an HBCU in the neighborhood. Like, there was a lot of trials and tribulations going on with the education system that you were subject to. Did you feel that at all, or were you distant from it?
It was so close that a lot of that took place, I'll consider it downtown Jackson, Mississippi.
7 minutes away from your home.
7 minutes away. Because of my parenting and how we spend more time together, we heard about Kennedy getting shot on TV. Mm-hmm. We had a black and white TV, 3 stations. Mm-hmm. I knew about it. I heard about it. It shows all the dynamic, all the rioting, all the things that was going on. But directly, it didn't affect us because we was more like and we was living in the hood.
You were in a bubble.
Yeah. So we knew it, but we wasn't access to a lot of things, so it wasn't nothing no one can come in and take away. Police brutality was real with the black men's in the area, but it didn't come that close because either someone in the neighborhood did wrong, they got arrested because they did wrong.
And by the time you heard about it, it was word of mouth. Like,
it's word of mouth.
Seeing it live and in color on
Exactly. Yeah. We didn't have none of that. It was the only TV. Then when Dr. Martin Luther King got assassinated, we saw that. It was impact. It was on TV.
Yeah.
My family was
though the fight that he was fighting was about the city you was living in.
Exactly.
You were not connected to that movement.
One connected because it was mostly going to school, coming home, and we stayed at home, or we go and visit family members.
Well, I can't wait to talk about this when we go through the episode.
We didn't go any further. It wasn't like we didn't go anywhere because my dad would take us to my uncle's place, which was about 45 minutes away. So we was moving around. Things was available. It was there. My sisters and my brothers and them was more in tune. The older ones was more in tune, all the hatred, because then that's when they came in with busing. Mm-hmm. They came in with busing segregation, so they started moving my sister and them from the black neighborhood to the white neighborhood, which was good, but we thought was bad.
Why did you think it was bad?
Because it was taken out of a place that you were so comfortable with while we need to go over here.
Yeah. They
was trying to integrate, and when you don't understand stuff, it becomes a problem and it holds you back. Mm-hmm. Understanding brings clarity. Mm-hmm. Clarity brings results, positive results, if you're willing to step in a direction. So we didn't know anything about it. We thought it was all about someone forcing us to do something. But it brought about more opportunities when I look back at it, because it took you into another way of being taught, and now you can actually go and now present yourself when you do graduate in a different manner, because you got a different level of understanding what business is about and how to go about doing it. It's not about working this hard labor. You can do office work now because you got a new way. I'm not saying we weren't getting that in the black neighborhood.
There were limitations, though.
It was limitation because no one would come in and offer us anything to what we had learned. Mm-hmm. We can go out and teach and someone else and make money, but we didn't know how to go out and make the money. Okay, so it was uncomfortable for my sister, and I was listening to them. So when I got up to a certain age, and then we was bust, it became a norm. We had to do it. It was a had to do it situation. Later on, it lifted that when I got into high school. Then I came back to the school. There's no more than about 5 minutes walking distance from my house. where I was being bused anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes to a school that I had to go to.
I mean, I could see why one would think that's unnecessary. My school is a 5-minute walk away, and you want to drive me 15 minutes away. So if I get stuck out here, walking back is an incredible. If I miss the bus, walking back or walking to, that's a hassle.
Yeah. So we missed the bus. Guess what? You come back home, your parents say you missed the bus, you walk. We had to walk to school. So I learned that it was a learning experience for me because I didn't meet no stranger. I enjoyed talking to all races. I didn't have a racial thing going on in me. I understood what was taking place. And I wasn't fooled by it. But I understand I can make a difference if I keep the right mindset and work with the right people to make a difference.
Because that shop teacher you were talking about that helped you with that scholarship.
He was white.
He was a white man.
Yes. Yes. And he was teaching in this school for years. And
in the hood.
In the hood.
Do you remember his name?
Dr. Bowes.
Dr. Bowes.
Yes. I remember.
Bowes is in like the speakers?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So he had, it was all black kids, but he saw something in certain ones. A lot of them just give him a hard time, and he just flunked them or passed them, because he had the ability. But the principal was a man of integrity. He made sure that they had all the teachers back. So it wasn't that he didn't like teaching there. He enjoyed teaching there. He had a reason why he was there. It wasn't because money-wise, because he wasn't paying a whole lot. It's how he dealt with people. It wasn't like my classroom wasn't like hood, like in some states. It was in the hood.
It wasn't like Chicago, Cabrini Green.
Yeah, you pointed out I didn't want to call it Chicago. I didn't do that. You did.
It was the South. It was the South. It was the country hood.
Yeah, and it was country hood, and it was all hood. Okay, but I learned something. He was teaching values. He was teaching technical skills with your hand. He was actually teaching a gift that he had. He didn't mind passing on to you, and that's what I liked about the class because he passed new ideas on to you.
I want to go back to one thing that you talked about as a student, and you've alluded to it in other episodes, but I want to go a little bit deeper, and that's on a very vulnerable subject that most men and women don't like to talk about, especially once they get older, and that's related to bullying. I mean, you stated that you were subject to bullying, and I'm curious how you think those experiences help shape you, because you could have turned those experiences into becoming a fighter. We know you didn't become a fighter. We could have turned those experiences to just completely and totally withdraw. Well, why I don't believe you're a shy person is because you did not withdraw. You leaned in. How did bullying impact you? And I'm curious because I myself was bullied as a kid. I don't remember if I would come home and tell you about being bullied at all.
Well,
I felt shamed. Like I was always mad that I was bullied because I felt like I lost. But I got better at it. But go ahead. Go ahead.
What I was learning, and again, these are things I was learning, and I'm talking to the audience. When you look at your journey is all about where you were and who brought you through. You weren't alone. You was there with the Heavenly Father. And that's what brought me through. And I didn't know. I could have took on a spirit of hating and rebellious and just began to fight back. But something
that's
about
letting the bully win.
Yeah. It wasn't about letting the bully win. It all worked out that the bully didn't really win. All the bully was trying to do is get attention. And as long as he or she had an audience, they was okay. What those individuals was doing is not because what I could have did something different. They was needing attention and some hurt and pain they was going through. And he kept reminding me over and over again. I would go back and look at it. Why you do something different? Why you do that? It reminded me of my dad. Everybody go through hurt and pain. Regardless of where it came from, how it came about, is how they deal with it. And people use different methods. So people bully because they got various reasons, but I'm letting you know, I'm not saying that you don't protect yourself. I chose to use a different method and not even know because of where I was going.
So let's go to one of my favorite classrooms. And this isn't something that you and I have talked about before, but I'm just throwing this out here. One of my favorite classroom experiences was always history. I really appreciated history. It always stuck with me. Always stuck with me. And I just completely started compounding historical facts and historical knowledge in my life because it was around me. In fact, you helped. When we talk about, I don't know how education had something to do with how you parented, but we had Hooked on Phonics in the house. We had all of these different learning games in the house to help. You bought us a series of encyclopedias in the house. And so I was always keen on learning history. And it wasn't until 5th grade where I woke up a little bit to really, what history meant in general. My teacher, one of my favorite teachers to this day, asked the entire classroom to do a project on one of their ancestors. And I was really excited about this project, and it had the rubric there. And when I got home and started trying to break down who my ancestor was going to be, I got completely and totally frustrated. Because while my peers in my classroom, it was Oklahoma City, I was 2 Black people of a classroom of 30. We had 2 Latinos in the classroom. So there were 4 people of color in the classroom. And the other Black person had a white mother. And the Latinos that were in the classroom were very, very connected to the ancestral history. And then many of the white children were as well. But when I looked around in the classroom, I was really the only one who could not trace my history back. And I had to I went to those encyclopedias. We weren't looking things up online. There was no ancestry.com. And if some family member didn't do a family tree, you just didn't know anything about the tree or the roots or anything. But I had to make up a family member, where they were from, everything about their journey to America. And it was the most disappointing project for me ever, because I knew that I had history, but I did not have access to find it. When we presented on that day, because all of the students presented who their people were, everyone had brilliance that they got to showcase. And all I had was a slave. Right? My history, my upbringing, as far as I could trace back, was an individual who could not read or write, was not allowed to read or write, and did not have freedom. That was the farthest I could trace my history back, knowing now natural selection says if I made it to this point, then there must have been some bad mamma jammas historically in my life, but I couldn't find them. I don't know what your connection to history was, but that deepened my desire to learn more about my past and learn more about my history, because even if I couldn't trace it back to my personal family tree, being able to see triumph in my past was incredibly important to me personally. How do you feel about that?
Well, and it goes back and me not knowing that you would experience it, and I did not know that's what you did on that project. I really didn't know that.
Thank God you got those encyclopedias.
Yeah.
I was an independent learner. Thanks for training me that way.
Well, that's what I always did with y'all. When y'all came to me, and not that I didn't know it, I always say, go research, go look for it, look it up.
Yeah.
See, what happened with us, what you were seeking, and at that time, the traditional way, you wouldn't have found anything. A lot of information you needed was at first hand, word of mouth.
Yeah.
All you had to do was come and ask the question, because then based on what you was asking, all I had to do was pick up the phone. We got family members' wealth of knowledge. Even this day, I got a first cousin on my dad's side, his first cousin, my second cousin, Bunchy. She is 93 years old. She can take you back, and everything that happened, she can read it off to you on both sides. My daddy, grandmother, she died at 102. So we had people with that knowledge, not in technology.
Yeah.
So all you had to do was sit down, and that's one thing your dad would do a lot of times to get knowledge, concrete knowledge, is sit down with an older person, and I will go and sit for hours with an older person.
I remember that.
And they will
You would
share.
take us to nursing homes for hours on hours on hours.
That's where you gain knowledge and wisdom. Because they would say it over and over again. Y'all would be impatient, ready to go. But every time you hear it the second time, you gain it. So anytime, even with, I was taking a nurse's home with Dad's mother, she still will be able to tell me if I ask in a way that she can recall. She'll tell me the back history, details about our ancestors. So that's where it was. It was through individuals, and you did not ask the question.
So you didn't get your history either in school, I'm assuming.
I got it. We didn't have those projects going back your tree. We just had traditional history learning in the past and what took place and wars and slavery and Oklahoma. I didn't know about Oklahoma, but we had a history book about Oklahoma. A lot of things like that. We was reading about what took place in other families, not our family tree. We kept family history back then in Bibles.
Oh.
So you're going to look at the family Bible. It gave you a breakdown.
That's why the Bible was so important.
Exactly. It has everybody connected.
I remember seeing them. I didn't realize that's what was in there.
Family Bibles. When a person passed on, they want the family Bible. That's how you kept up with the family tree.
Interesting.
Yes.
So who has the family Bible?
Well, in our family now, because a lot of stuff that we had at our house got burned up in the fire. And that you lose those things, then you have to search out which other family member had. Just like on my Uncle Bubble's side, he had 13 kids. A lot of them, we would connect with them on mama's side, my mama's side. And then on my dad's side, I would find other people on my dad's side, like Bunches and other ones. I got people of my great-great-granddaddy from New Orleans and how he came about. I'm finding more information, pictures and things like that. So you have to contact family members, and they will know family members who have these items.
Well, we're talking about this episode. If you're tuning in, you're listening to His Daughter, Her Dad, and we're on the episode of talking about my father as a student. And while being a student is important from elementary school to middle school to high school to college, wherever on you take your life, but it is also important to be a student of your family and to learn about your family and a student of your history. I'm a firm believer if you're going to be a writer of your future, you must be a reader of your past. And so where we're at right now is that there's a lot of history to be learned, but like you said, some of that history isn't going to be found in the book. I'll tell you, when I was a kid, I read this story a long time ago, and I haven't looked it back up, but it was like white men spend like a certain amount of time thinking about the Vikings. They attribute their history to the Vikings in some form or fashion. They find motivation in the Vikings because the Vikings were strong and they were powerful. And when I heard that story, it was maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, I thought about myself and who I looked to when I was a kid. And honest to God truth, it was Egyptians. I didn't look like an Egyptian. I didn't walk like an Egyptian. Still am not an Egyptian, but I was so inspired by the Egyptians building the pyramids and their walk in slavery, because that story of slavery was a lot more redeeming than the one that existed in our country from my vantage point. The people got let go eventually in Egypt, and the rest is history. But for us, it seemed like history was still in the making as it related to freedom and things along those lines. And so still walking in that journey and trying to watch that play out live and in person today. But again, like being a student and knowing who your family is and seeking motivation from the things that we've been able to achieve historically, I think is important.
Well, when you say that, and you make me think of all the siblings I have and alive now, I wasn't a history person in school. I didn't enjoy that. I mean, science, I didn't enjoy that. I was more or less into the technical side because I got a degree in drafting technology. I was a draftsman. I was a builder. I built things. So history was boring to me. If I had to go into history, that just wasn't me. Science, it was not me. You know, math, I can do certain math to get by to use in draftsman. But I was more of a visionary. I vision things. I can see things behind and in front and but underneath. I can see those things. So that history just didn't excite me. So when it came down to family history, I never would keep up with that other than knowing that I had a resource. If I need to know an answer, I can call on someone. I know who to call on. But there was other family members who kept up with those things. That was their areas. So your dad areas was never that way. And what y'all took up on and whatever y'all decided about the 5 kids, I never told y'all what you need to study. Y'all determined what you wanted to study. All we did was nurture what you studied. Yeah. So if you became a history or math or science or sports like Spencer,
y'all, real talk though, y'all would not let me take home ec. Y'all said if you're going to learn how to cook, you're going to learn how to cook in this house. I could waste home ec on another elective.
We know it. And why waste your time? It was going to be a waste of time.
True. They weren't going to teach me to cook the way y'all teach me to cook.
No, because...
And real talk, the year that I also got to know in home ec, I also was given a sewing machine because I was like, but what about sewing? No one in this house knew how to sew. And you did not speak up and say you knew how to sew, by the way.
The thing was, if I became a person who's going to say, you're going to do this and this kid going to do this and I force you to do it, then you're not going to like it because of what I did. You're going to like because of what you decided to do, and I supported you. And that's what all of y'all. I went to everything y'all did. So if you didn't want, we know you wasn't a person that deal with the house. You just not that person.
What do you mean?
In other words, you like to be one who challenge. You would like to be one who stand up for people who didn't have the right.
So why did I have chores?
Because it was.
Why did I have to stay at home all Saturday where my siblings were out folding clothes and washing clothes for the entire house?
Because it was called unity. You have to understand unity. Everybody had a place, and you choose not to take your place when it was time. You choose it when you wanted to choose it, not when it was needed. Right now. I'm just letting you know.
I had
everybody's had chores.
Fold clothes for 7 people.
Why?
It took me all day.
Why?
All day.
How many times that happened?
Saturday. Saturday.
How many times did that happen?
Unity?
How many times that happened?
Almost every Saturday.
Understand. You chose to do something that caused a disrupt in the family called a problem. So you being punished. So your mom decided to punish you.
Life was a punishment.
Well, you fold the clothes.
Yes, begrudgingly.
But you learn how to fold clothes, did you not?
I do. It came in handy when I.
That's what we do.
When I worked
we
for New
teach
York
you,
company, yeah.
And it might be hard. You learn from walking in.
You know what I remember? I remember you telling me, do the hardest part first and do the easiest part last because it'll make you feel better. And so I'd hang up everything that needed to be hung first. And the last thing that I did was make the socks because that was the fun part for me. And I could do that in front of the TV.
So did it help?
It hurt.
Hurt? And I want you to know this, and I want the listeners to know this. I want you to know this, and I want the listeners to know this. Hurt appears to be bad, but hurt is growth. It expands you to the next level. So now you can take on anything that comes your way, and then now the pain is not as great. It's just like you're an athlete. You go out there and you start stretching. If you don't continue to stretch and bring about hurt, you cannot be able to play in the game at your max. Okay? Mm-hmm. So always remember, the hurt was a good thing.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I'll put that one in my back pocket. And and never get it out again. All right, so let's wrap up this conversation talking about you as a student in college. And I think this is an incredible part of your story because we talked earlier about the disconnectivity that you had with your education process and literally some of your community because you kind of lived in this bubble with you and your family occupying space there. However, you graduated from Jackson State University with a degree in business administration and drafting technology, right? Is that what
It
it's
was
called?
a drafting technology, a bachelor degree in drafting technology, a minor in business administration.
Yeah, okay. Minor in business administration. So you graduated, but you didn't walk. Why didn't you walk?
As I shared with you, at the time, I was mostly focused on working and getting the grades to qualify to I got my credits to finish college. Because me so focused on that, when I didn't live on campus.
Yeah,
I lived off campus.
Why did you live off campus?
Because I wanted my own apartment.
Okay.
I want to be able to go to and from my home. And again, this thing about living on campus, I wasn't really geared up to go to college.
Okay.
I didn't know the ins and outs. I didn't want to try to follow tradition. At the time, that would have been following tradition. I lived on campus, and that would have been a different story. My life would have been changed altogether. I chose to work. I had a car. I say I can get my own apartment because my thing is moving away from home, not moving off to college because it was around the corner. And I was been at home. I was moving out of the house because I needed to make room for the other siblings that I was taking space. The boys' room was still one bedroom. We moved into a house and we had bunk beds. So that eliminates me, and then was down to 2 boys at home. So I moved away and I was focused on going to school, working at night, and starting a life. And that
Where'd you work?
I started working when I was in college, United Parcel Service part-time at night.
Normal people know that as
UPS.
UPS.
Okay.
Is that where you became a Teamster?
I never was. Yeah. Team. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm saying, yeah. UPS, yes. Back then, it was called the full name.
Okay.
But then we knew it at UPS. And even UPS is too now, the United Parcel Service. And also United States Post Office is still.
That's
similar.
USPS.
Okay, we ain't gonna get into that.
Okay.
Anyway, I was working at night, and I would come home, and I didn't need to go on campus because campus was a distraction. You had a lot of people on campus weren't doing anything; it was going through the motion. So I never lived that life, campus life, and I could have. But I chose because the reason I didn't do that because, again, I received a scholarship. It wasn't a full ride. It was a partial ride. So I had to get financial aid too. So to live on campus, I had to spend a little bit more money on my financial aid to live on campus. So I took that money and used it for my apartment.
Oh, okay.
So I decided I was making business decisions and didn't know I was making it.
Okay.
Okay.
So you didn't walk because you was too busy making business decisions.
When it came up to walking, it was the week up, and I should have already got my camping gown and all of that the week before in order to be ready to walk, but I didn't know about walking.
You was being a dude.
I was being responsible. But anyway, like I shared with you, I remember them telling me that the graduation, why you not there? And then I drove over there, and I was then there, and then I talked to one of the instructors, said, you supposed to did this, and this, and but you're not walking.
Do you feel like you missed something?
Not really.
Oh, okay.
Because I got what I wanted. They gave me my diploma.
That's what you needed. Yeah.
Showing that I was accredited, I would receive it, and I was then. But my family didn't even know about it, and it was the day that they celebrated. The family celebrated, but when it was over with, it was over with. I didn't experience college life, so I wasn't really. If I was on campus, I wouldn't have been more in tune. I didn't keep up with what was going on campus, and I should have known. But if I had kept up with it, I would go and see my advisor when I needed to make sure I had all my credits. That's the only time I talked to my advisor. Other than that, they didn't call me in. So that's what been in the connection being on campus. So Didn't walk, but it wasn't about walking, showing off. It's about me focused on where I was going.
And where'd you go after you graduated? You wanted to get into building a little bit. Did that
I
happen
wanted
for you?
to go into drafting, and I didn't get while I was in college. I didn't go do an internship during the summer to get some experience.
Because you were working here, right?
I was working at United Parcel Service.
Oh, no. This is another thing. That's
No,
another
that
job.
was in high school. I worked at Service Merchandise while I was in high school because I had a car. That's why I was taking my mama, because I had a car at 10th junior, sophomore in college. In high school, I had a car, so I had to pay the bills. So I worked at Service Merchandise on weekends, nights and weekends. Okay. So I was about working, and I just focused on school and grades. But I want to drop out. I was taking care of family. I was being taught that, but I didn't have the.
So you were sending money home.
I was at home. I was still at home. Until I graduated. Okay. So my whole thing was, when I couldn't get, when I finished college, I started looking for jobs in the state of Mississippi, in Jackson, and I couldn't find any because they wasn't hiring people just come on. They had to train them. They wanted somebody that had some training. So I ended up leaving for a weekend to go to Memphis, Tennessee for a few days to look for a job in Memphis. I determined I need to get out of Jackson. I went there looking for a job and drafting, and I couldn't find anything. So it wasn't meant to be. I ended up staying back in Jackson, and I didn't really get in, and most people don't follow their degrees. I ended up getting into accounting with my cousin and running a home care agency. It wasn't just then, it was other things I did.
Sure.
And I remember the first time I worked for a job and I got fired because it was based on productivity. And I wasn't, it was, if you didn't make a sale, it was I was going out and finding students to actually take their program and sign up for these programs they have for this technical school. And I wasn't bringing enough people in. They were paying me a base salary, but I wasn't bringing enough people in.
Probably weren't persuasive because of your opinion on school.
I didn't have a better opinion of school. I love school.
You were kind of indifferent, it seemed like.
School to me didn't have. I love school. Don't get that twisted now.
You loved it?
I love school, man. I just wasn't, that person who just want to shine in school. It wasn't about using this. It was using my hands, okay? Because I learned from my dad. That's all he did. Use his hand and made it work. So when I got fired off that, and then I ended up going into, with him, my cousin, doing some accounting work out of the house. And then that's when I got into business, and I grew from there.
Well, we got another episode on that. Well, needless to say, we're going to wrap up this episode today and connect with you good people on another date. Yes. Thanks for tuning in to his daughter, her dad, and to all the fathers out there. If nobody says it today, good morning, good afternoon, and good night to you. Y'all have a good one.